Okay, so in continuation with last week's on the water video, we're going to go over the Gika Rig. That little booger right there, the Cinco. Ready to run and gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101. On the water last week and a video or two before that, we did some Gika Rig fishing. Gika, Zika, I've heard it called that. Yeah, there's not very many tutorials I've seen on YouTube that just kind of gave me a wow, because it's a pretty simple system, really. It really is. You know, I use a Cinco with it. You can use any kind of creature bait, lizards, worms, whatever you want to use. I prefer a Cinco, but that's me because it's a very simple soft plastic and it does whatever you make it do. Personally, I use 8 3/16 quarter and 3/8. Do I ever use this 3/8 right here? No, not very rarely, unless the wind's blowing really bad or I'm fishing really deep. Other than that, this 1/4 ounce is probably about as far as I would go. The hook that I use on it, I do get from Tackle Warehouse. It's an EWG Superline, and it has, see if I can get this on camera because it's very, very tiny. It's got a very small O-ring on that thing. It's a welded O-ring, about a size 0.0 or maybe even a double 0.0. It's very tiny. But I tell you what, if you use something bigger than that, you're probably going to get hung up. There'll be a split ring hanging you up. I mean, that's just what I learned from my experiences. Whenever I get this thing snagged, if I give it some loose line, pop it, or maybe go up over top of it and just pull it, it comes right out. So it kind of makes me wonder if that little split ring or solid ring is not getting everything kind of hung up a little bit. And these little dudes right here, these clips, are not the easiest to use by hand. Not the best design because they spin in the weight, and it's kind of hard to get your fingers to pinch in there. So a pair of pliers will probably help you out. If not, 2 pair of pliers, one to hold the back, one to hold the front, snap that thing on there. Palomar knots, what I use, unless you're using fluorocarbon, maybe a San Diego Jam, or the old Gerald Swindle baling hay behind the barn knot that I've showed you before with fluorocarbon. But those are the knots I would suggest to use for this thing. I prefer a 2/0. If you look at 2/0, doesn't go up that Cinco or doesn't go behind that Cinco very far because I want as much action of that Cinco as I can get. I mean, you can use a 3/0, 4/0, 5/0, whatever, you know, they offer all the different sizes with it. I like a 2 because I want the action of that Cinco. Now, if I'm using a Cinco by itself, then I'll go to a 4/0 because it kind of helps that tail do its thing going down. But as far as, you know, to me, this is a replacement of a Texas rig, and I've said that before. You know, rather than fishing a Cinco in a Texas rig format, fishing the Gika Rig, Zika Rig, how about we just call it G Rig? It just makes it a lot easier to fish as far as a Texas style, and it's not going to twist your line up really bad. I hate that. I can't stand line twist. But a 5-inch Cinco with a 2/0 hook is what I use. I'm not telling you to use that. use whatever you have confidence in. If you even prefer using a different style hook, maybe you're a Mustad guy, maybe you're a Matsuo guy, or an Eagle Claw guy, or an Owner guy. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But you're going to have to put you a ring on there, and it's going to have to be a split ring. And if you want that size hook, as far as the wire diameter, you're going to have to go to about maybe a 2/0, I mean not 2/0, but maybe a size 2 split ring, or maybe even a size 3 split ring, and get you a pair of split ring pliers. Because what's going to happen is, you go on this thicker wire, you go to put that split ring on there. If you just use a pair of pliers, you're going to bend that split ring out. And I prefer not to use a split ring, just for the simple fact that you have the passovers that sit off just a hair with that one wire in the middle. And it tends to, unless you tie right in front of that and put that little separation of the wire, if you kind of did it in a split ring, this is kind of more what it looks like. You got this one wire here, and you got these in the middle. If you could put this middle part right against that hook and then tie to the back side of it, you're okay. But I'll be honest with you, if you go to a bigger size deal than that right there, you're probably going to get hung a lot more. So that might be a reason why they use that little itty bitty little baby split ring or solid ring right there, because it does help in not getting snagged so much. I know other rigs I've used that use split rings like that. If you go to something bigger than that right there, you are constantly going and getting your lure. So it tells me the split ring's kind of hanging a little bit, so you don't want that. But that's just my 2 cents on this, guys. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with this. It's just a hook and a clip-on weight that you get from Gamakatsu. They're both Gamakatsu, and a 5-inch Senko. To me, that's the G rig, Gika Rig, whatever you want to call it. But like I said, if you like throwing, say, Ochos or other type of Senkos like this that is not as expensive as these, by all means, go for it. Or maybe some of the fatter robo worms, zoom lizards, zoom centipedes. What about what about creature baits? What about beaver tails? Things like that. Absolutely, it's your choice. What about crawls? You can throw a crawl on that. Just match your hook to the size of the bait you're doing. That's the beauty of these things. They just clip on, clip off. But again, like I said, they're a little tricky to mess with, so you kind of have to hold your mouth the right way, kind of like that. You're trying to get these on, because they are hard to get on these hooks. These clips, like I said, they spin around, and it's just they're really hard to get on. So that's all I have for that, guys. Just kind of want to give you an idea as far as this. Rods and reels, that's your choice. I would definitely stick with a 14-pound to 12-pound minimum. You can go higher than that. I also like this rig too, because as much as a swing jig is very versatile, this to me kind of replaces that swing jig. Because again, this hook is loose. So whatever that weight is doing on the bottom is going to transfer it to the bait on top. So this, it kind of, to me, it definitely kind of replaces that swing jig, which I'll get to that down the road as well. So until next time, guys, may the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name. And as always, fish on.